You know, I'm well aware in the Christian calendar that this is Palm Sunday. And you didn't know that. And I remember as a little Catholic child, going to church on Palm Sunday was great because we got to take something home. We got to take a palm home. So I'm sorry I'm not handing out palms this year, but I am going to hand out some of the artichokes we have here on display. So bear with me. Sonara sarcomilus. This is a two-word metaphor I would use to best describe the theme of today's sermon. Sonara sarcomilus have been around for at least 2,000 years. A Greek physician wrote about them in the time of Christ. Ancient Greeks and Romans considered them a delicacy. In France, they were regarded as having a remedy for various ailments. Sonara sarcomilus are large thistle-like plants and produce edible flower buds. The scales and hearts of the buds are eaten as vegetables. Sonara sarcomilus provide a number of vitamins and minerals. Sonara sarcomilus are on sale at the Stop and Shop for $2.09. Sonara sarcomilus are, if you're not already guessed it, Latin words for perennial vegetable, the artichoke. Specifically, the globe artichoke. As I began to research this topic of artichokes, I found that there are exactly more than 140 varieties of artichokes. However, less than 40 are grown commercially. Italy produces more artichoke varieties than any other country. Historically, after the fall of Rome, artichokes became scarce, but reemerged during the Renaissance in 1466. Catherine de' Medici is said to have introduced them to France when she married Henry II in the midst of the 16th century. It was the French immigrants who brought artichokes to the United States when they settled in Louisiana Territory in 1806. Louis Lemery, an 18th century writer, states in his book Treatise on Food that, quote, artichokes suited elderly people at all times, and also those of a melancholy disposition. He also stated that artichokes were considered an aphrodisiac, and women were often forbidden to eat them. It's always the women. That's always the women. What's up with that? It was my dear friend Mindy who introduced me to my first artichoke back in 1974. As a child growing up in our house, there were only two kinds of vegetables served, peas and corn. But on occasion, the other A vegetable attempted to make an appearance, asparagus. You see, we had an asparagus garden in our backyard, and we grew them to sell to the neighbors for pocket money. My mother just boiled asparagus to death, and none of us would ever eat it. Asparagus was for selling. It was not for eating. So it was not until my early childhood that I learned the value and the voluptuousness of the A vegetables, artichokes and asparagus. My artichoke memories are quite profound. I can vividly recall my first experience discovering the accolades of the artichoke. I remember how Mindy would delicately and patiently steam the artichokes. She never boiled them. Once steamed, she laid out across the table small little glass dishes filled with a mixture of dressings to dip the dark, meaty green leaves into. There was a melted butter dressing with fresh garlic and basil, a mayonnaise, curry, and cumin mixture, and a balsamic vinegar, oil, and mustard mixing. Once the table was set, and we began the ritual of slowly peeling off the outer green layers, dipping it into our favorite dressing, and then with only our front teeth sliding down the leaf, removing the white fleshy meat of the vegetable. We would talk, dip, eat, and lick our fingers. Talk, dip, and lick our fingers. There was so much joy eating with our hands and fingers, and there was in the taste of the artichoke itself. There we were, on a hot Maryland afternoon, basking in the light of my first artichoke, worshiping with our fingertips. Initially, it seemed like a lot of work for such a little vegetable. That is, until we got closer and closer to the center. I remember how Mindy's pace would pick up the closer we got to the end of armored coating. Now, she explains, comes the best part. Once again, in an almost ritual-like fashion, Mindy would cut away the bumpy outer ridge, clean away the choke fibers, and then reveal what the poet Neruda calls the peaceful flesh of the green heart. Mindy then cut up the heart and placed sections of the varying dressings to let them soak up the juices. After the passing of times, we would very slowly pick out the delicate pieces of the heart, one by one, and eat them. Again, worshiping with our fingertips. Eating the artichoke is by far one of the most sensuous foods I have ever experienced. It is surprisingly soft in its texture and amazingly delicate in its flavor. There is a sign in American Sign Language which best describes its taste. It comes from the sign delicious, but the flavor of the artichoke heart is more than delicious. It is the sign can be translated that the taste simply melts in your mouth. I will be forever grateful to my friend Mindy for introducing me to the accolades of the armored vegetable called the artichoke. However, the question remains today, how was a Cinara Zacopulus, the artichoke, a metaphor for today's sermon? To locate the deeper meaning of this metaphor, I would turn to the sensual desires. I would not turn to the sensual desires of the flesh, but rather the emotional content of the heart to identify its true significance. Celebrating love, which is what this service is all about, is like eating an artichoke, but because it is getting to the content of the heart that matters the most. It is the heart of an artichoke where the delicacy of the vegetable is found. And celebrating love is all about the context, the complexities, and the relationships of the human heart. Love and artichokes. They are about getting to the heart of the matter. Now, if you look closely at an artichoke, I'm going to pick one up. Not quite real, but anyway, it's all right. Steamed or raw, the first thing you notice is its protected layers, if you look up close. I'm just constantly wondering, who thought about eating these? Where did that thought actually come from? And how did they eventually get to the heart of the artichoke? My second thought was a bit more challenging as I came to realize that my heart, my human heart, is also surrounded by large armored layers, built up over time to emotionally protect myself from heartache, heart pain, and heart loss. It was not that I knew this armor was there, it just became a matter of survival. The process of peeling away the layers of my protected layer of my heart actually began in divinity school. As one prepares for the ministry, it feels like a requirement for each seeking ordination, in whatever faith or religious practice, to peel away the protected armor surrounding one's heart. For you see, it is difficult to minister to others if one's own heart remains protected, armored, or closed off. It is difficult to love others if one's heart remains protected, armored, or closed off. Yet to comprehend the nature of this armor which protects the heart is to begin to understand the contents of what lies within our hearts. And to understand the nature and content of the heart is sacred and holy work. As the psalmist writes, "With my whole heart I seek you. I treasure you in my heart." It's an amazing journey to peel away the protected layer surrounding one's heart. Much of my personal peeling and journey led back to my childhood and revealed the painful past of childhood sexual abuse. To understand what happened to me as a child, I had to painfully and mindfully peel away the protected layers of my heart to reveal its content. In my need and desire to comprehend how or why this happened, I became lost in the content of my mind and forgot about the content of my heart. Understanding is not always an intellectual enterprise. Often understanding is an emotional achievement. In understanding and accepting my childhood memories, I began the essential task of owning the content of my heart. By owning what lies within, I am giving greater freedom and passage to enter my heart. In the Thai language, the word for understand may be literally translated as entering your heart. To enter the heart of our being is to examine with mindfulness and gentleness all the protective layers surrounding it. To enter the heart is to begin to dismantle those layers and to risk being vulnerable. To risk vulnerability is to live with your heart wide open, absolutely wide open. To live a heart wide open is to live with the stirrings of love and compassion. To live with love and compassion is to live with peace. As our responsive reading stated, if there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in your heart. If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in your heart. If you want to achieve the high ideal of peace in the world, peace between nations, in cities, neighbors, and homes, then there must be peace in your heart. It begins here. It begins right here. In our reading, Emerson reminds us the heart actually knows the kindness of humanity by the indwelling power of love within community. How many we see in the street or sit with in church, whom those silently we warm to rejoice with. The heart knoweth. The heart knoweth. So the challenge I place before you today is, what would it take for you to begin to peel away the protected layers surrounding your heart? Do you find yourself unable to risk vulnerability, to risk loving with the full outstretching of your being? Is it fear or feeling of unworthiness that keeps your heart protected? Is it bias, prejudice, or bigotry that permits you to love some and not others? How does being a Unitarian Universalist help you to peel away those protected layers of armor? Truly, it is part of our faith as we affirm and promote. These are actions. Affirming and promoting our actions ask of us to accept one another, to acknowledge the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. For myself, I would find that difficult if my heart remained closed, shielded, and protected. And still, even in our faith tradition, it is beginning the process at the ideal acceptance of one another, the goal of world community with peace, justice, and liberty for all. We begin right here rather than beginning up here. It begins with your heart. I would encourage you to take some time today or any day this week to pause and pray on the contents and layers that surround your heart. Is there one thing you're able to do today? Begin the process of peeling some of those layers away. As a gift to you both, all, I bought as many as I could, even though they were on sale, for each family to take an artichoke home with them, especially those who've never eaten an artichoke. Is there anyone here who's never tasted an artichoke?
There's one.
You get one for sure. Okay. If there's a family, I ask the family to take one, and if there's not enough, I do apologize, but they weren't quite on sale yet, so my budget had a limit to it. And I invite you to sit down, as a family perhaps, or a couple, or individually, and after steaming or boiling, it's up to you, however you choose to eat the choke, and begin openly and mindfully about the layers and the contents of your heart. Open yourself up. Open yourself up to the full outstretching of your being, and let love and peace enter within. This path of the heart is a holy one, absolutely holy one. Walk in it, my brothers and sisters. Walk in it and share your heart with a friend. Walk in it and share your heart with your church or your minister. Walk in it and share your heart with your God. Yes, my friends, walk in it and discover the peace, love, and compassion which lie at the center of your heart. Allow the delicious flavor of your heart to open and shine forth with the wholeness of universal love. My friends, the heart knoweth. Amen. And blessed be.